What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we have the complete Vespers Host Dungeon guide for dummies, showcasing every single mechanic of every single encounter, as well as tips, tricks, and loadout suggestions to help you guys complete this brand new dungeon just added into Destiny 2 within episode Revenant as fast and easy as possible. And so, let's get started. But first, really quick, as you can imagine, putting together a guide like this is a huge amount of work. There's no editor, scriptwriter, thumbnail, it's all your boy. So please, if you do enjoy this video, if you find it informative, remember to support it by liking and especially sharing. And hey, if I can teach you an entire dungeon, I can probably teach you some other stuff as well, so be sure to subscribe. Now, a couple of things to know before you begin. First of all, head to the last city and talk to Spider to acquire the Rogue Network quest, which requires you to do a dungeon run. On top of that, guys, you have contest mode and now normal difficulty mode, both active at the time you're watching this video. Contest mode will last until Sunday, October 13th at 10 a.m. Pacific. If you can beat this dungeon with contest mode active, you will get the Icebreaker Exotic Dungeon Sniper Rifle as a guaranteed drop. Now, after starting the dungeon, you will head forward and then very quickly reach this room here with a bunch of shipping containers around it. This is going to introduce you to your first mechanics, and if you play Deepstone Crypt, you're about to recognize what's coming next. So you want to look around for enemies with certain symbols above their head. As you can see here, one enemy will have a red symbol above their head. If you kill that guy and pick that symbol up, you will have the operator buff. Now, it's only going to last for about a minute, and if that minute ends, you will die. So how to avoid that is that you go to these nearby transfer stations. It's going to be a similar object every time with like a glowing yellow light, so you can plant operator in there, and then you can pick it up again, or another teammate can pick it up to restart that minute timer. Now, there's another buff as well, and it's called Scanner. It's this yellow object that again will be floating above a certain enemy's head. You kill the enemy, pick it up to get Scanner. So you need to use one person with Operator and one person with Scanner, these buffs together, in order to beat this part. You're going to need to head around this shipping container area and look for certain keypads. As you can see right here, they're just going to be objects that you can shoot. However, specifically, the person with Operator needs to shoot the correct keypads. So how do you know which ones are correct? Well, in Deepstone Crypt, they would be glowing yellow, but this time, and for the entire duration of this dungeon, the scanner mechanic works in the same way, and it's a different way. So what you actually need to do is, if you have Scanner, you need to look at your minimap. As you can see right here, it will actually show the locations of all of the different keypads as yellow markings. As you get closer to these keypads, however, they will either turn into a white circle or they will disappear, and you'll actually hear some corresponding sounds to either one. So it'll sound like bang, 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 like a bad sound if it's disappearing, and it'll be like ba-ding, like a good sound if it is turning to white. I'm sorry for those impressions, but it will be a noticeable audio cue as well. So the person with Scanner simply needs to go to the different keypad locations and find out which ones are the correct ones to shoot, which ones turn into those white dots, and make sure the person with Operator shoots those keypads and avoids shooting the keypads that disappear, that are the bad keypads. Once you shoot all of the correct keypads, then the door will open up and you can continue forward. And again, this exact mechanic is going to be present throughout the entirety of the dungeon. Now, very soon after heading through these doors, you're actually going to get to the first encounter here, guys. So in this encounter, you are going to have this starting area where you're going to have the rally flag, and then there's actually 3 different offshooting rooms, 3 different offshooting locations. Each one of these locations is marked with a certain symbol above them, but these symbols actually don't mean anything. It's just like a way to communicate with your teammates. So you head up to this ball, you interact with it to reboot the system, and then you have a massive brig drop down from the sky, as well as a bunch of enemies spawn as well. So nuke the brig and then kill the other nearby enemies too, and eventually an enemy with Scanner will spawn, kill the enemy, and pick up the Scanner augment. At this point, guys, you need to pick which one of the pathways, which one of the newly opened doorways to head down. It does not matter which one, it's just personal preference. But eventually, you will need to complete all of them, because all of them essentially lead to a different route, a different objective where you have to shoot the correct keypads with operator once again. So as you can see right here, you're going to like run over a little bit of a jumping puzzle, and eventually you will encounter 2 fallen invisible bosses. You nuke these bosses, they actually don't have that much health, and then that is going to unlock a doorway so you can continue forward on this pathway. However, where you kill these first 2 bosses, you will have an enemy with operator spawn, so make sure to kill that guy and grab operator. You can see I was the scanner guy, so I head forward through this new opening. I actually have access to some depository stations, so I deposit and then re-pick it up to refresh my timer, and my teammate who's on the operator duty, like you can see him go back to where those first 2 enemies are, pick up operator, and then join us to shoot the correct keypads. So you're gonna have a ton of ads spawn in this kind of new opened area, including 2 more of these invisible fallen bosses. So nuke them as quickly as possible, nuke the ads as quickly as possible, and then the person with scanner, as you can see, will need to go around the map and shout out which are the correct keypads for the person with operator to shoot. And when they shoot those correct keypads, then you have a nuclear core that spawns, as you can see. You need to transport this all the way back to that starting area. Now, very importantly, I have an absolutely massive tip here. So at this point, you actually want to deposit both scanner and operator into those depository stations, because when you go to those other routes, those other rooms, those will be waiting for you in those depository stations. So you don't have to like reacquire them from enemies or whatever. You just go pick them up from the deposit stations, again, in those other future rooms you're going to. In any event, guys, again, you need to transport that nuclear core. Now, keep in mind, when you are transporting it, it will take away your double jump and eventually slow you down. Also, you build up radiation. When you get to times 10, you will die. So especially for the top left route, it's almost impossible for one person to get it all the way there. So you will need to have a teammate with you to switch off. Now, at this point, you may have noticed the entire time you're doing it, you actually have a timer, the enraged time remaining in the top left corner of your screen. So you need to complete all 3 rooms as quickly as possible before this enraged timer counts down. So it's literally the same objective every single time. You're gonna see gameplay from the other rooms and it's the same thing. Someone has scanner, goes around to all the keypads, figures out which ones are the bad ones. I think it's always 2 bad ones. The rest are gonna be good. So if you figure out which 2 ones are bad, you can just say, you know, the rest are good, quickly shoot them. And also you can split up your team to make things go faster, especially I would recommend going to these rooms as a team, as a 3-person team, but once you have the nuclear core and you're transporting that back, that's only a 2-person job. The 3rd person can go back to the middle and start ad clearing the next route, the next room you're trying to go to. Now, you are going to have to, when you get the nuclear core back into that main room, guys, you're going to have another brig that has spawned. You need to kill the brig in order to remove the shield that is preventing you from depositing that nuclear core into these 3 different objects right here. Again, it doesn't matter which object you deposit into, it doesn't matter which order, it's just 3 different objects for 3 different nuclear cores from the 3 different rooms/routes, right? So, again, that is really it for the mechanics. It's just getting scanner, getting operator as you complete that route, opening up that new passageway, shooting the correct keypads, and transporting back that nuclear core 3 times in a row, guys. It should be noted that the last time, as you get back to the starting room with your third and final nuclear core, there's an even bigger brig that spawns, a brig boss. So make sure you do have enough damage to take this guy down. We were using, god tier heavy grenade launchers. That was fantastic. But hey, maybe even having a special that can deal out some damage is a good idea as well, or even a super something like Twilight Arsenal. But you're also going to need to have the right loadout to deal with the massive amount of adds that are spawning here as well. What came in really clutch for me was the Indebted Kindness rocket assisted frame sidearm with Volt Shot. That absolutely decimated these tightly packed groups of adds. But guys, moving on from there, we get to the next kind of encounter. It's actually a traversal section, but you can absolutely still wipe on it. So what you're going to need to do is find a way around this area while avoiding this massive servitor that splits into other servitors, and you're going to need to find the different nuclear cores and deposit them in the correct locations. So importantly, as you first load into this area, you're going to have your route blocked by this barrier. However, as you can see, you can toggle the power off and that will let you head on through. But as you do so, your entire team, as you can see in the left corner of your screen, will get a tick of power reserves. Then you can actually put the power back on, and as you can see, that will take away a power reserves. Now, this same mechanic is going to be how you actually traverse through this location. Now, the route is pretty complicated, and also it's going to change for every person depending on where this boss is. Like, you may want to run down the hallway and head directly to the next door you need to go in. However, if the boss is right in your way and the boss is really powerful and can kill you easily, then you actually might need to take a back route going through several different doors to still go to where you need to go. So I'm going to make sure I show the entire route we took in the background gameplay uncut, so you guys can, if you want to go the exact route we went as well, you can. But importantly, it's just going to be toggling that power on and power off to get access to different rooms. And as you can see right here, you're going to run past the boss at first, head over to that left side, and then you're going to find a certain captain. Now, these captains are going to be what actually drops the nuclear cores. And importantly, you need to deposit the nuclear cores into the correct objects. How do you know which one is correct? Well, they're literally numbered. So you deposit on number 1 first, and then number 2, number 3, and it goes all the way up to 5. So you are using that first tick of power that you gained from opening that first barrier. You're running past the boss and getting that nuclear core, and then you are opening more doors, more rooms that are going to avoid the wrath of the boss. And as you deposit the nuclear core in these different correct locations, more of the captains will spawn, as you can see, which you can kill and pick up more nuclear cores. Now, usually when you reach an area and deposit a nuclear core there, you kind of start to see enemies spawn like the captain. That kind of gives you a good indication of where you're supposed to head next. Also, remember, again, you can pick up multiple power reserves by closing doors behind you. So then you can open up like multiple doors in front of you all at once to get quite a distance into a new area. So keep that tip in mind as well. But again, it's literally just going to be picking the route that's best for your team to avoid that boss, and then depositing those nuclear cores into the correctly labeled locations. Again, you have the entire footage of what I did in the background gameplay, but it's still probably going to be a bit confusing to watch. You're just going to have to get in there and start exploring and start learning a little bit of the layout. But aside from that, that is it for the mechanics of this encounter.
We have 4 reserved. No. Can we go this way? We can't go this way. Well, he's moving so. He's 4.
There's a door here. I opened it. 4 is right here. 4 is on me.
I know. Yeah, I'm helping so. 30 seconds. I think you're just gonna run past. I can heal you. Let me put on no hesitation.
Try to... then there's a door here.
Another one. Can you go close the door? Get our power back.
Boss is in here, yeah. He's like to the left, but there's another door here.
Open it. Oh. There's a door to the right. Let me check in here. Nothing here.
Subclasses.
Well, I
You
can't.
can jump over this.
I can't.
Wait, I got it. There's a door
There's a
here.
door over here. Yeah. There's a dunk in here.
There's another door over here. It's gotta be this way.
Oh, right, close those doors behind you.
First level permissions required.
What does it say?
First level permissions
First level
required.
permissions
You
required.
have to deal with the wall, maybe?
That's right.
Yeah, probably.
It's probably past him, but like, how are we supposed to get there? Oh, it's in here. Wait, you already? Wait,
Sound good. There's one all the way.
No. Yeah.
Unless this is another one.
We can go a different way. Wait, come back here.
Yeah, I'm coming
I'll
back.
close this door behind us. Oh, there's a
Can you
hole
take it
right
back
here.
out or anything? Oh, this is probably it then. Wait.
Yeah, down here.
And so moving on from there, we get to the next like real encounter because you actually unfortunately don't get any rewards for that encounter. So this next encounter is a bit crazy. You have this starting area and now you have a bunch of different keypads, but instead of just being blank keypads, you can clearly see they are numbered. And we have from number 0 to number 9. And we'll get to those keypads in a second, but for now you want to start the encounter by heading forward and you will see that massive servitor that you were running away from. It will spawn above you in this arena and it will start dropping out a ton of exploding balls. So make sure to stay away from those. At the same time, there's going to be a ridiculous amount of ads that spawn. So I will say, quick loadout tip, the Consecration Prismatic Titan was god tier here. I don't know how we'd be able to do it without that in terms of contest mode because holy crap, it is just so good at ad clearing. And again, there are so many ads. Now, part of those ads will be an enemy with the operator buff that spawns in the beginning portion of this encounter. So when you see that guy, kill them, pick up operator, and just deposit it. We'll come back to it later. But after slaying out for a while, you will see text in the bottom left corner of your screen, guys, that you do have a machine priest that has been summoned. When you see this, you're going to see this boss spawn, and when you kill this boss, then you will be teleported. So make sure you've picked up operator and deposited it before that teleportation happens. But again, kill that boss, get teleported to above where this room is, and then as you can see, you have a ton of exploder shanks running at you all at once, so make sure to be killing those as quickly as possible. You also have the boss, that giant servitor, in the back of this new area shooting those explosive balls at you once more. So just weather the storm initially, and then once you kill all of the shanks, you will actually see a new shank spawn right near the boss with a blue buff. This is a new buff to pick up. It's called Suppressor. So when you pick this up, your grenade ability will be replaced with a new ability that, if you activate it, will drop like a blue figure behind where you pressed your grenade button. Now, this blue figure will explode either when you shoot it, your teammates or enemies shoot it, or after a certain amount of time. What you need to do is plant this blue figure, use suppression, your grenade ability, near the boss. As you can see right here, if you plant it close enough to the boss and then the boss is kind of caught in the explosion, then the next part of the mechanics will happen. But very importantly, you can actually be a little bit further than you may think because the boss will nuke you if you get too close. So as you can see, you can still be like behind this piece of cover, use that suppressor ability and still get that explosion either by waiting. Like sometimes if you're close to cover, the blue figure is actually in cover and you can't shoot it, but don't worry, it will explode after a certain amount of time. But again, from behind cover, you can still tag the boss. And as you can see, when you do, the boss is going to split into a ton of different servitors. All these servitors are going to be immune, but they're also going to be numbered. As you can see, it's like Raneiks, the name of the boss, and then a number from 0 to 9. So what you need to do is look at which 2 of these 10 potential targets are actually glowing. And if you're thinking, wait a minute, this gameplay doesn't seem to have any of them obviously glowing, that's because they're not obviously glowing. It's incredibly slight, especially when the non-glowing ones, they shoot their void attacks. It looks like they're glowing. You're just going to have to pick apart, again, slight differences in which ones are glowing. Again, it's going to be very slight. Hopefully I can have like a paused image that shows you the difference between a non-glowing and a glowing one. You need to look at which ones are glowing, look at their labeled number, like actually in their name, and then you need to head back through this passageway. There's actually another passageway on the left you can head through as well, into that main arena again. And you need to start slaying out on ads immediately. Now, as you're doing that, someone should type into the chat or physically write down whatever those 2 numbers that you saw. So if you saw Phanex 1 and 6 glowing, you write down 1 and 6. At this point, guys, you need to do that entire process again. So slay out on ads, pick up the operator and deposit it. You may not need to if you didn't use it yet. Then you will need to kill the machine priest, which will teleport you up again. Same thing again, avoid the exploder shanks. You need to grab suppressor. I would highly recommend waiting until the suppressor guy is away from the boss so you can pick it up without dying. And once you get that suppressor explosion off correctly, and you have the boss separate into all of those different servitors, you pick the other 2 that are glowing. So again, in that example, you had 1 to 6 glowing the first time. Now you have 3 and 4 glowing the second time. At this point, guys, you can head back to that starting area. Someone is going to pick up operator and they will shoot those 4 numbers. So you need to have 4 correctly shot keypads by operator before you start the encounter. So again, you're just doing like one phase to see the first 2 numbers, the other phase to see the second 2 numbers, and then you are shooting 4, and then as you can see, that will actually despawn enemies and it will start the damage phase. So this damage phase is going to begin with the boss right in the middle of the arena here, and you will have a suppressor enemy as well. Kill the enemy, pick up suppressor, and then plant it near the boss. As you can see, explode it, and then the boss is going to split into all those different servitors. At this point, finally, you can actually do damage to the boss. Now, you have an extremely limited amount of time to DPS, so stuff like Thunder Crash, the Parasite exotic grenade launcher, stuff that does a ton of damage extremely quickly, stuff like Nova Bomb, all of that is going to be fantastic because again, you have just a few seconds to get your DPS off. And also, you have to kind of group DPS all these different servitors. So you don't want direct damage stuff. Again, you want explosive damage that's going to hit multiple servitors at the same time. However, once you do hopefully enough DPS, it's just the exact same process. Again, if you don't kill the boss in one phase, you're going to have to do those same mechanics to get back to a damage phase. And the only other thing you need to be aware of is that, as you can see right here, for the very final end of the damage phase, when you're actually killing the boss and the boss's health is just at a smidgen left, you actually need to keep killing. Like, it's going to take a while because you can actually see the servitors are splitting into like more servitors as they're finally dying off. So it's going to take a little bit longer in the very final damage phase to finish these guys off. But guys, there you have it. And it's time to move on from there to the final boss encounter. Now, there is a bit of a traversal section to get to the final boss fight. You're simply going to have to make all of these jumps on this derelict ship. Keep in mind, though, you will see a bunch of these like lightning strikes coming down. Yeah, that's going to be a theme in the boss fight as well. So kind of follow the route. You can see me in the background gameplay, and it should be easy enough to find. Eventually, you will hop onto this kind of platform here, and then you actually need to head down below to avoid this blast. So once you are down below, like this is kind of the proper actual boss fight. If you die, you will respawn like down here in this room. So here's what you gotta do. Now we have all three of those different buffs, different roles being used. So you have Scanner, Operator, and Suppressor. So when things start out here, you're going to see the boss at the back of this arena with a pretty devastating sniper rifle that does a lot of damage. So maybe put on some arc damage resist for this. But then you're going to have two of its clones suddenly spawn and charge you. These clones have a kind of sphere around them, and as you can see here, when you get inside that sphere, you get that radiation poisoning debuff. So if they're close to you and you get to times 10, you will die. So definitely avoid getting too close, but you also need to kill them. So how do you actually kill them? Well, as you can see, you will have an enemy with the suppressor debuff spawn. So what you need to do is plant that suppressor decoy and blow it up when those clones are nearby. That is going to get rid of that radiation sphere and actually let you damage them. And they're actually pretty easy to kill. Like one consecration will take these guys down. Now, at this point, you're going to have an enemy with Scanner and an enemy with Operator spawn around this area. So the next part we need to explain is what Scanner is doing, because you actually have, again, a bunch of keypads all around the room, and they do have numbers yet again. However, these keypads are red in color. There's going to be 4 different pillars around this room. Each one of these pillars is labeled from 1 to 4 as well, but these numbers are blue. So it's a little bit complicated to explain, but essentially you are looking at which pillar is the correct one with your scanner. So there's only 4 different objects on your minimap that you can test with your scanner. All of the different keypads around the map, they actually don't pick up on your scanner. It's just the 4 pillars with those blue numbers. So you find out which one of those 4 is the good one. So there's all 3 bad ones and then just 1 good one. And whatever that number is, so if the pillar is number 2, then the person with Operator needs to shoot all of the number 2 keypads all around this arena. And there's going to be 4 different keypads of each of those corresponding numbers, and they can be in some pretty unusual locations. So it's just a situation of repetition is going to let you learn where those keypad locations are. So to summarize one more time for this opening area, you need to use Suppressor to destroy the 2 clones that are charging at you with radiation. After that, you need to pick up Scanner and find out which of these 4 pillars is the right one, and then the other person kills and picks up Operator, which shoots all of the different numbered keypads of the corresponding pillar. So if it's pillar number 3, shoot all of the number 3s. At this point, guys, then an alarm will sound. 4 different kind of doors that you can now jump down will open up. However, you need to be very careful of which one of these newly opened doors you go down. So as you can see, you can actually have alarm lights going off. Half of this arena will have these blinking alarm lights and like a siren, and the other half will not. You need to head towards the blinking lights. So drop down either one of these 2 opened doors, again, next to those blinking lights. That will put you on the correct side of the map you need to be in order to progress these mechanics. So you're going to drop down, there's going to be a bunch of enemies, take them out. You're going to have more of those irradiated clones following you around. So head down the hallway and then into the correct room that, again, follow the blinking like siren lights to find the correct room. You'll know it's correct when the boss is in here. So once you're in this room, you will once again need access to those different buffs. Specifically, you need Scanner and Operator. So you can have them here in 2 different ways. The first way, and what I would recommend, is that before you drop down next to the blinking lights, you can deposit your buffs in those deposit stations, and then those buffs will be available in these deposit stations in this like underground room. So definitely what I would recommend. However, if something has gone wrong, if someone dies, if you forget, whatever, then in this lower level, you will also see enemies that have these particular buffs as well. So you'll need to kill them and then take them. So you will need Scanner and Operator to progress. You actually don't need Suppressor. There is going to be, again, more of those irradiated clones down here. You can kill more of them if you want to make things easier, but you can also completely ignore them, because in this new downstairs room, what you need to do is have the person with Operator shoot the 4 different keypads down in this room. And for once, the actual keypads don't matter at all. There's just 4. You just need to shoot all 4 of them. And so once all 4 are shot, as you can see, a bunch of different clones will spawn all over this room, and the person with Scanner needs to go around and figure out which is the correct one to kill. And again, they do that by looking at their minimap. Which one has those yellow symbols turn into white and not disappear? Then you kill the correct one, and that one will drop a nuclear core. Now, importantly, you can actually kill more than one at once. If you kill the wrong one, it will start kind of a blaring timer, and you will need to do the next part very quickly. But again, if you nuke 3 at once and one of them happened to be the one with the core, you can still grab that and continue. So grab the core and then head into this kind of bunker area that has just opened up. Now, importantly, heading in here will actually delete your buffs. So if you have Scanner and you head in here, you will lose Scanner. So you actually want to deposit it in a station and then head down here into the safety bunker. And then when everyone is down here, and only when everyone is down here, have the person with the nuclear core deposit it. That is going to kill all the enemies around, and it will take the boss's shields down by 1/2. At this point, guys, that safety bunker is going to open up and allow you to get outside. And essentially what you've done is half of the arena. So if we turn the tape back to what happened when you first dropped down into this lower area, you were going to the side of the room with the blinking lights, right? Well, now you essentially need to go to the other side, and you do so by traversing through these newly opened doors that have a bunch of explosive traps and even the slowing trip mines as well. So definitely be careful as you're making your way through here. But eventually you will get to the other side, and you will find a different room. Again, you know it's the correct room when the boss is inside of it. Now again, if you deposited your buffs before you went into the bunker and deposited your nuclear core, then those buffs are waiting for you. So you can easily just pick up Scanner and Operator, again specifically, and Suppressor if you want, and start doing those objectives. Shoot the 4 different keypads in this different room, and then you're going to spawn all those different clones. You will have to pick out which is the correct one with Scanner. You kill that one, pick up the core, and this time you don't actually need to deposit in the stations. It doesn't matter. You will deposit that core, and then you will chunk the boss's shield for the second half. At this point, guys, you need to make your way back up to the upper level, and you do so by heading back this route, not the explosive trap route, the other route, to this kind of middle section. And as soon as you touch this glowing part here, it will teleport you back up, and you then need to step into this back area here, which will shoot you up to that upper deck. Once you get up to the upper deck, then finally we can do some damage to the boss. So initially you will see the boss in the very middle back of this new arena, and then a clone will spawn on the left and then the right. So you can target focus the boss, but also eventually you do need to kill these clones. So some loadout suggestions. Sniper rifles are very good. Heavy grenade launchers are extremely good. Even stuff like Anarchy. People are ticking the main boss with Anarchy and then ticking the other 2 bosses also with Anarchy. The clones have significantly less health, but again, you will need to eventually kill them to progress the mechanics. So your main focus should absolutely be that main boss. That's what you're taking down with your sniper rifle. So stuff like Supremacy, Cloud Strike is god tier. Whatever your best sniper rifle is going to be fantastic. However, after damaging the boss for a short while, then you will see those lightning strikes that you may have seen as you traveled to the boss fight. They will start to spawn around the arena and they will one-shot you. So you need to constantly be mobile, and importantly, you just need to be in the air. It seems like they will kill you if you're on the ground, but if you're kind of jumping through them, you seem to avoid most of them. So definitely just be moving around and paying attention to where those glowing gold effects are on the ground to, again, avoid them. Now, as you're doing all of this, you're again damaging the boss, you're killing the clones, and then you will start to have a bunch of clones spawn and charge at you. This is where you really need to start to focus the clones, because one of these clones, as you can see, will have the nuclear core. So at this point, someone makes sure to grab the nuclear core, and then you will see the boss do a white mechanic, and a giant burst of energy will start to come out towards you. Now, you need to grab the core and head to this newly opened door, another safe area here to the left on the arena, deposit the nuclear core in there, and then you will survive that blast. At this point, the door will open, and then you can pop a well or do whatever and start to DPS again. It's actually easier to DPS now because you have this safe spot. You can DPS from the stairs here. You're generally in cover, but you have a good view of the boss. And again, you avoid almost all of the lightning here. If you do see lightning around you, you can head further into this safety area, further into the bunker to avoid it, and then simply come back to the stairs to keep DPSing. But importantly, guys, once you've done all of that, you're DPSing on the stairs, you will start to see the same things happening again with all of the clones. A bunch of clones are going to spawn, they're going to bum rush you, but you want to ignore them. And that's because there's no more nuclear core, right? It's just a white mechanic. So you want to target focus the boss as much as possible, but obviously you may need to spend a little bit of time killing the clones that have charged you. But once you see that explosion spawning again, you simply need to get out of there. And you simply go to the hole that you were shot out of to begin this boss fight. So you head back down there, as you can see, and that is going to take you back down to that original room you started in. And guess what? It's all of the exact same mechanics again. So it's, in that first room, getting rid of the clones with suppressor, it's shooting the right keypads, it's going down to the lower level, it's identifying and killing the right clones to drop the nuclear core, planting it in, lowering the shield again by 1/2 each time, and you're gonna get up to the boss fight to hopefully finish him off or do as much damage as you can. And so guys, there you have it. That is gonna be it for how to complete the brand new Vespers Host Dungeon. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis, that is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.